All right, guys, welcome to the Tuesday Direction video note day today. Kind of going through a lot more of the artists of the Northern Renaissance. You read about them yesterday. We'll kind of look at some of their pieces today. Very similar to the first note day. A lot of this is just who painted what, okay, or who created what. So we're just going to be looking at a bunch of artists, a lot of their great works. And again, everyone is famous from this time period, obviously. But we're going to start here with Pope Leo the 10th. Again, he's a Medici Pope, so he is kind of to become a pope. The cardinals kind of select. There's like a group, the group below the pope. They're called cardinals. There's many of them, and they kind of vote on who the next pope is. And the Medicis kind of pay them, or they bribe them to vote in certain popes. So this is how this guy comes to power. The Medicis basically bribe all the cardinals to select him as pope. He becomes pope. What does he do? Well, he spends, right? He runs through the Vatican treasury in 1 year. Their entire savings goes through the 1 year. And his extravagance has offended some cardinals as well as Martin Luther. We'll get to him with the Reformation later on. And once he's out of money, he finds a new hustle to try to make more money, and he starts selling indulgences. Basically, you can pay to get people out of purgatory. You're paying for other people's souls to be kind of released, I guess you could say. And so that's another way for him to make money. And again, at this moment in time, the church is extremely corrupt, right? Mainly because of the Medici kind of having so much power and political influence because they have so much money. So that's kind of where we're starting with Pope Leo, the Medici Pope. He'll be on the quiz, so if you want to jot that down and kind of copy down the slide, you can pause it, you'll be good to go. All right, let's start kind of looking at some of these Renaissance artists still. Renaissance Florence, we're not going to worry about them. Our first guy, the most famous architect from this time period, is Felipe Brunelleschi. We saw him in our video, the most famous architect of this time. Obviously, he is famous for the dome of St. Maria dei Fiori. Commissioned to build the cathedral dome, and so he's known for the dome. Okay, we just want to know Brunelleschi, the dome. Okay, so again, how did he come up with this? Well, we know he didn't have the best beginning. We know that he had an opportunity to become more of a famous architect early on. He was put in like a head-to-head matchup with another famous architect of the time to design some doors. And he loses that kind of one-on-one architect off, and he's kind of embarrassed, so he leaves. He goes to Rome, and he studies the Pantheon in Rome, which we looked at in our ancient Greece unit. And as he's kind of studying, it kind of hits him. He kind of figures out how to make this dome structure happen. So when he returns, he is able to win the job, and then and he just goes from there. And his secret with the dome, a lot of it, he has two parts to it, right? He has the inner dome, which is painted and it's extravagant, but it's not really a structural piece. It's just more for looks. And then on top of that dome is a bigger dome that's more for the structure piece. Obviously, we know the bricks and the way he lays them and stacks them to help keep all the pressure points away, so to keep the dome up was his kind of a secret. It was groundbreaking. As you can see here, the way that it was put up. And this is the outer shell. This one is meant to keep, obviously the rain and the elements out, where the inner dome was more for beauty, right? So you can see here, this is the inner dome painted, beautified. Again, this is a church, so we have some religious murals up there. All right, and obviously this led to other domes, right? We have St. Peter's, we have St. Paul's in London, we have the Capitol, even in St. Paul, right? The cathedral in St. Paul, we even have our own dome. All right. Let's kind of dive into some of these people here. I'll kind of highlight some of the more famous ones. Botticelli here. We'll skip through Botticelli. This one's pretty interesting, though. This is Venus and Mars, right? Mars is the Greek Roman god, right, for war. So if I zoom in here real quick, you can kind of see some of the symbolism, right? Maybe not. It's not going to load. There we go. You can kind of see some of the symbolism, right, with the god of war. He's tired. He's exhausted. Kids are playing with the spear. We got the war helmet there. Just some good symbolism there. Let's kind of keep it moving. We're not going to spend too much time on Botticelli today, which is okay. Let's skip ahead. The bonfire of vanities, burn books, artwork, jewelry, and other luxuries, goods in public. Even Botticelli put some of his paintings in the fire. Basically, people were against the arts. They were, it was bad for. There's a lot of sinful things being displayed on the page, right, with the nudity and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of have like a little setback there. But we're not going to spend too much time on that. We're just going to be kind of focusing on the people themselves. Yeah, we're not going to worry about Titan. All right, the Renaissance moves north. This is what we read about yesterday. Okay, so these are going to be people we're going to be focusing on today. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with all these artists. All right, so which artists brought the Renaissance to Northern Europe? What themes did humanist thinkers and others and other writers explore? So, and then obviously, what impact did the painting revolution have on Europe? So let's look at kind of people who are outside of Italy and kind of mainstay Europe, right? Germany and England, France, all those kind of the mainstay, the Central Europe. All right, so here we go. All right, should not be considered an appendage to Italian art, but there is Italian's influence. Okay, painting in oil, which was developed in Flanders, was widely adopted in Italy. So Flanders is in France. The difference between the two cultures: Italy, change was inspired by humanism with its emphasis on the revival of the values of the classics. And then Northern Europe, change was driven by religious reform, the return to Christian values, and the revolt against the authority of the church. And that comes with the Reformation. So we'll talk about the Reformation later on. But we just want to know that the church is extremely corrupt right now, and the average person is starting to realize that. So we're going to have kind of a little mini revolt against the way the church is going right now. All right. The continuation of the late medieval attention to detail, tendency toward realism and naturalism, and again, less emphasis on the classical ideal. Interest in landscapes, more emphasis on the middle class, the peasant life. What's the average person doing? All right, and again, we still got the great skill in portraits. Let's just kind of skip ahead here. Here's the guys we're going to look at. So jot this slide down. These are the four guys we're looking at. Albrecht Dürer traveled to Italy to study. Through his art and essays, he helped spread the Renaissance to Germany. It's called the German Leonardo. You'll see that one in the quiz. So Albrecht Dürer. You got Jane and Hubert van Eyck. They're famous for developing oil paints. So let's jot that down. Van Eyck, oil paints. Peter Brugel. He's more of a peasant life. He just focuses on the middle class peasant for a lot of his pieces. So write that down. Again, jot this whole slide down. And then Peter Rubens blended the realistic tradition of the Flemish painters with the classical themes and artistic freedom of the Italian Renaissance. So jot this slide down. This will help you out on the quiz, just kind of give you a little detail on each of the people. So let's get into it here. So Albrecht Dürer, this is kind of this is the German Leonardo, right? So this is a self-portrait he made to kind of give you an idea of what he looks like. He's famous for his engravings and kind of his wood carving. So he's not much of he's a painter, I guess, but he's really famous for his engravings. Okay, so you can kind of just take a look here. The Triumphal Arc. Again, if we zoom in, the detail is unbelievable, right? Really impressive. We're just going to kind of take a gander here. His most famous one is the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and this is one of his woodcuts in 1498. So let's write this one down. This one will be on the quiz. Albrecht Dürer, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Pause it now. Jot it down. And for our quiz question, we want to know what the Four Horsemen are. So you want to know the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse are pestilence, war, famine, and death. Those are the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse that are displayed here in the painting, or in the wood carving, woodcut. All right, so jot that down, what the Four Horsemen are, because that'll be the quiz question. All right. More woodcuts of them. This is kind of a Pawn Stars episode. We're not going to have time to watch it with the online. But that's him. Albrecht Dürer, woodcuts, engravings. His most famous piece is the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse right here. So jot that down, and then jot down what are the Four Horsemen? Who are the Four Horsemen being displayed? And I know we're going fast, but we only got 15 minutes with the online piece here. So let's move on to my favorite person from today, the Van Eycks. You got my favorite one is Giovanni and the Bride. So let's jot that down. This will be the two paintings we'll use on the quiz, Giovanni and his bride, and the man with the red turban. Jot those down. Now, Giovanni and his bride is a little interesting. because of the detail that's in the painting. You may not see it right now in this one, but as we kind of zoom in a little bit, especially right there, you'll be able to see the detail. So as you can see, he actually has painted the reflection of the back side of Giovanni and the bride, and also in the painting is himself painting them. So it's kind of like Inception, right? Where it's a painting within a painting. All right, so there's just extreme detail that goes into it. And you can kind of see him right there, but it's tough to see. All right, so Van Eyck, for his paintings, Giovanni and his bride, and the man with the red turban. Again, they're famous for kind of developing oil paintings. Okay, something that we kind of see as common now, but back then, definitely not. Definitely groundbreaking. All right, so we got Van Eyck. We're not going to worry about these two. I'm not going to put these two on the quiz. Just the first two. All right. And again, more portraits here. Skipping ahead. All right, let's move on to our next person then. And this guy's name is Quentin Massys. And Quentin Massys is known for a couple of paintings. The first one is The Moneylender and His Wife. So let's write this one down. The Moneylender and His Wife. Quentin Massys is another guy we're looking at. He'll be on the quiz. So The Moneylender and His Wife is also famous for the extreme amount of detail. That's what really impresses me with these paintings, is some of the detail. So again, if we kind of zoom in a little bit here, we'll be able to see some of the detail. Let's again focus in there and on the money. If we zoom in, again, we got Quentin Massys himself painting them. You got the outside structure out the window. Each page you can see over here individually. And if we look at the money, you know, again, this would be like an exact replica of the money. And you got some pearls there with it as well. You got the scale, weighing it, right? Because he's the money lender. He's a banker. So you weigh it out. You see the pearls there, kind of the collateral, all that good stuff. And his other famous painting is called The Ugly Duchess, right here. So for Quentin Massys on our quiz, it's going to say, who painted The Ugly Duchess and the Moneylender's Wife? And the answer, Quentin Massys. And again, just another one of these famous guys from the time period. We'll skip ahead a little bit here. Don't really care too much about those ones. We don't care about this one. This one's just more perspective than anything. All right, let's move on to Peter Brugel. Peter Brugel is one of the greatest artistic geniuses of his age. His is more landscapes, less portraits, so you're not going to have like the moneylender's wife or anything like that. It's going to be more focused on the individual. And his probably one of those famous one is the Tower of Babel. Again, giant landscape. And again, this comes from the story in the Bible. You can look it up if you want. But Brugel, Tower of Babel will be on the quiz. You can take a look at it here. There's a video on there as well if you want to just YouTube this stuff. If you just YouTube the Tower of Babel, you can find videos like this where there's an art historian kind of giving the 2 cents about it. The Peasant Wedding, again, focusing on peasant life and big landscapes like this one, Mad Meg. If you want to just jot all these down, Peter Brugel, Mad Meg, Tower of Babel, Peasant Wedding. Right, the Beggars, again, focusing on the individual, what peasant life is like. The parable of the blind leading the blind here. Again, peasant life, peasant life, peasant life. This one comes from kind of the Black Death. We saw this one in our Black Death video, and also in our notes, with kind of the emphasis on death. And again, the Triumph of Death is the name of it. And again, you can just look these up if you would like to. Hunter in the Snow, Winter Scene, he's just all about the landscape. So if you want to just write that down, Peter Brugel, the king of landscapes. All right, let's keep it moving here. Who do we got left? We're not going to spend time on this guy, to be honest. We don't really spend it too much. Here's another guy we're looking at. This is what you want to write down. His name is El Greco. And El Greco is the most important Spanish artist of this period. And we're going to look at some of his stuff as well. I'm about to pause the video now. We're about to run out of time. And we're going to have to kind of do a part 2. I'm trying to go fast, but I still can't make it within the 15-minute mark. So last thing to write down for this part of the notes is El Greco, the most important Spanish artist of the period. And then we'll look at some of his works.